Monday morning, everybody. Welcome to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm your host, Jesse Cofield, joined by DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow, and VSiN's Josh Applebaum. And for the next 30 minutes, guys, we are going to be breaking down some of the best plays available to you on the DK Sportsbook for Week 13 in the NFL. Let's get it started with a look at some betting trends leading into Week 13 here. So Kansas City at Cincinnati, KC getting 89% of the handle, 82% of the bets. Denver at Baltimore, 92% of the bets, 88% of the handle on the money line. Now 77% of bettors like the Cleveland-Houston game to go under 47.5 in Deshaun Watson's first game for the Browns. And then Seattle at LA, biggest discrepancy of the week. Seattle getting 64% of the bets against the Rams, but LA is pulling in 62% of the handle. So are you guys surprised about any of these trends or anything else on the DK Sportsbook here? Like, Steve, maybe how much love KC is getting in an AFC Championship rematch with the Bengals, where Jamar Chase is expected to make his return.
Yeah, not only that, Joe Burrow has played very well against the Chiefs since he's come into the league. This has been a matchup that he's excelled in. The Chiefs have struggled to really kind of contain Joe Burrow in the matchups that they've had so far. So not surprised, because the Chiefs are playing so incredibly well, but at that same time, the Bengals have as well, and they're getting their top target back this week.
Yeah, Jules, anything in here stand out to you? What do you think?
I guess that an under is getting so publicly bet. It's three favorites, and that makes sense. But the under in Houston and Cleveland, that surprises me a little bit. But like as Steve and I talked about on the Unreasonable Odds podcast the other day, we love that under. I don't see how there's going to be that many points in Houston.
Yeah, Josh, what do you think?
So I'm just going to go back to that big game there, that Chiefs and Bengals game. To me, what's notable there, such lopsided betting on the Chiefs. I guess that's not a surprise, Jesse. They're a big public team getting over 80%. But what has the line done in that game? It's actually gone down to Joe Burrow. At one point, that was -3, 2.5. You're down to like 1.5. That looks like a pretty sharp play to the Bengals to me.
All right, guys, so every week here on the show, you give your best bets of the week. Let's take a look back at last week's results. We keep a tally here. Steve was eating leftover turkey last week. He did not give a bet. Good for you.
Yeah, I wasn't here.
Yeah, good for you. Good for you.
I mean, when I was out with having a child born, I gave a bet every week.
But I'm not here to defend myself, so I'll just be here when I can defend myself. That's why
Fair
no
enough.
bet last week.
Fair enough. All right,
Lazy.
Julian got an L, took the Bucks. Josh got an L, took the
Look
Titans.
what happens when you do give your bet.
Yep,
L's.
Lot
we
of
took
L's.
losses like men.
Yes, but combined on the season, you guys are 22-8-3, so you still
That's
have
good.
like a 67% win percentage. So that's like pretty good.
Thanks to me.
Let's get back on track though for Week 13. Okay, Josh, give us your best bet.
Yeah, Titans let me down last week. Beat the closing line, too. That got to 0, so let's see if we can bounce back this week. I'm going to go with the Las Vegas Raiders here, Jesse. This is a game that all week long has been seeing huge steam move toward the Las Vegas Raiders. This game opened against the Chargers, big divisional game. Chargers at 1 point laying -3. Throughout the week, it's gone down pretty much a half point every single day. Over the weekend, we were at like a -1 Raiders. Now you're -2, 2.5. This may even get to 3. This is one of those games where with a ton of movement toward Las Vegas Raiders, no buyback whatsoever. Tells me sharps are united here on the Raiders. And the thing that I love about it, they're only getting 33% of bets. They're actually, the public is on Justin Herbert and the Chargers here, yet the line keeps going to Las Vegas Raiders. So I'm going to back the Raiders here. They won a couple games in overtime. I'm going to go money line, though. I'm not laying the 2.5, win by 2, win by 1, and you kick yourself for not paying the juice. I'll go -135 money line with the Raiders.
All right, Julian, what's your best bet of the week?
We haven't done a teaser in a while, and I'm going to a teaser. Now, I hate that the Ravens have gone up to 9-point favorites, so we're only getting it down to -3. I would love to get through that key number, but I'm still going there. Denver Broncos, at some point, we just have to admit, like, they're not going to be sharp. They're lifeless. They're on the road. Baltimore lost to Jacksonville on the road, gave it up in the fourth quarter last week. The Ravens are going to win this game by more than 3 points at home, and I'm going to use it with Seattle on the road. They're down to 6.5, so you lay the 6 here on the teaser. It gets it just to a straight-up pick. Just need Seattle to win that game and Baltimore to come through by more than a field goal. That's going to be my teaser. And the stat that we gave out on the podcast, Steve, this is from our friend Joe Osborne, friend of the show. If you tease against Denver and the LA Rams every game this season, you're 22-0. Yeah. They have not covered. Every opponent has covered their teaser leg against those teams this week. So classic week to give it up and just have one of them not come through. But I think the Baltimore-Seattle teaser is going to work.
It would happen to you, Julian.
It would. It would.
Steve, where are you going for your best bet?
Yeah, so when we talked during our pre-production meeting, I mentioned I wanted to take the Steelers money line. They have since moved to favorites at this point, so I'm just going to take them at -1, save a couple cents here on the spread. But look, the Falcons are running the ball at one of the highest rates in the league right now, 56.3% of the time. That only trails the Bears at this point. the Steelers are really good against the run. If you look at some of the teams that they faced over the past 3 weeks, they faced Alvin Kamara, Joe Mixon, who did get hurt in that game, and Jonathan Taylor. In those 3 games, they averaged just 67 rushing yards per game. So now we have a Falcons team that's going to want to run and probably struggle to run. So that means they're going to have to give the ball to Marcus Mariota. They've done so well at trying to hide his inconsistencies at quarterback. Now he's going to be feeling a lot of pressure from guys like Watt, Alex Highsmith, who's been one of the more underrated guys in the league at this point. Not enough talk has been about how good Highsmith has been at getting pressure on the quarterback. This just spells to me the Steelers are going to be able to get to the Falcons when they're on offense and be able to score offensively too as well. This team is clicking offensively right now, so give me the Steelers -1 against the Falcons.
All right, we'll see how those bets do. Hopefully you guys get back in the W column this week. Coming up next, we're going to look at key storylines that could impact our analysts' opinions on today's games, including Deshaun Watson's return to the NFL against his former team. That's crazy. We're going to get Steve and Julian's opinions on the drama when the Sweat, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, continues.
The wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook is officially live in Maryland. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code SWEAT to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now.
Welcome back to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm your host, Jesse Cofield, alongside over at the LED, DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan and Julian Edlow. They are here to let us know what they're sweating, aka what is making you nervous for Week 13. So storylines, stuff that maybe is making you second guess some of your bets here. So as we mentioned before the break, Deshaun Watson makes his return to the NFL today. Certainly plenty of opinions to be had in what's been a couple years filled with controversy for Watson, but he's taken the field for the first time since the 2020 season. What kind of impact is he going to have on the game? Like, Steve, could this be a spot to look at Houston as a 7-point dog with so much on the line for them?
Yeah, this line has been kind of bouncing around all morning. We've seen 7.5, we've seen 8. I mean, the biggest thing for me is, what are we really going to get out of Deshaun Watson here? Is this somebody who wasn't able to practice with the team really except recently? And as the spread is set right now, whether it's 7.5, whether it's 8, this would be the biggest spread for him as a road favorite. That's a huge number for somebody who hasn't played in 2 years now. Now, Houston, to be fair, has been putrid against the spread overall. They're 4-6-1 against the spread. But as 7-point favorite underdogs or higher. They're 4-2 against the spread this year. So that's been a spot where they have been able to cover. I think this is just such a tough spot for Deshaun Watson. Now, the only thing I will say, Derek Stingley Jr. is out for this game. So that's the best corner for the Houston Texans. But I would not be surprised if the Browns are trying to run in this game. You can run against the Texans. So maybe kind of take that pressure off of Watson. So not crazy about him today, not crazy about the Browns, but things are starting to fall in the Browns' favor.
This is going to be a game. We know this is going to be a game. We've seen this situation play out. We've seen Tom Brady come back to Foxborough, and the Patriots have a kick in the air to win that game. Didn't go through the uprights. We've seen Russell Wilson go back to Seattle and lose that game outright. Like, we know how this situation works, and this isn't a guy that is fresh. Like, those guys were still, playing. He hasn't played in 2 years.
Right.
He's going back to the place that he used to quarterback for. He's going to be rusty. I think that Houston is going to be in this game. I'm not going to make a play on the spread. The one that we've talked about a lot this week is the under. It's gone from 47 down to 46.5. I don't see how there's going to be that many points in this game. Like, Watson's going to be rusty. They're going to hand the ball to Nick Chubb. He's going to have a huge game, and Houston's going to find a way to stick around a little bit. Something like a 20-14 type of game.
Yeah.
All right, guys, Green Bay Packers are not officially eliminated, but they are 3 games back from a playoff spot.
Steve thinks they are.
Steve seems to think they are as good as eliminated. Aaron Rodgers banged up. He's answering questions this week about, being, retired for the rest of the season here, being shut down, letting Jordan Love take over the offense. Obviously, Rodgers wants to go down fighting, right? We know that. They play the Bears this week, which is a team that Rodgers owns. He's 23-5 in his career, so with such a rocky season for Green Bay, though, Julian, is this like a time to look at the Bears here?
This game, I had such a strong opinion on it early in the week. I really wanted to bet Jordan Love against whoever was quarterbacking for the Bears with
100%.
Justin Fields out. Now, guess what? Both starting quarterbacks are in, and I hate the game, and the spread is growing towards the Packers. What I will say is we know the Packers own the Bears. Like, if there's a get-right spot for the Packers, even if their season is over, it's getting a win in Chicago, and then they kind of tumble out of control. So I do lean to the Packers. They should be able to run all over the Bears. Aaron Rodgers should be able to pass all over them like we saw Mike White do last week. Aaron Rodgers is not giving up his job. Like, if this was Tom Brady, you know how he does not give up his job. That's how you lose it. There's a first-round pick behind you in Jordan Love that is ready to take over. So I really wanted to get a -130 money line Jordan Love against whoever was quarterbacking for the Bears. With Rodgers versus Fields, I lean to the Packers because I think it's a get-right spot for Rodgers, but not as strong of a take.
If you look at the overall stats for the Packers in this situation, at least this year, they've been absolutely brutal. Green Bay is 1-6 ATS as favorites this season, and not only that, they're failing to cover by almost 10 points in those games. So they've been getting absolutely smashed.
And they're even worse on the road.
And they're worse on the road, too, as well. But like you mentioned, if there is a get-right spot, it's this game against the Bears. They have almost no pass rush to speak of. Their secondary is extremely poor. Now, obviously, Rodgers doesn't have his plethora of weapons like he's had in years past, but this should be a game where he should be able to get downfield. Now, that being said, we've had 2 matchups where this could have happened against the Lions, against the Titans, 2 teams that don't have strong secondary. So I do lean the Packers in this one here. It's gross. It's really gross to think about with how bad the Packers have been against the spread. But at this rate, something's got to give here. I feel like this is the game where the Packers can kind of start bouncing back.
If you take the Bears, it's gross too. So there's
of
no
course.
side in this game that is not gross.
Absolutely gross. Well, the Jets got a much-needed spark when Mike White took over for Zach Wilson last week, leading them to that 31-10 win over the Bears. Huge game. But the Bears are not the Minnesota Vikings. They are definitely not, who come into this game with a 9-2 record, 5-1 at home, and as 3-point favorites. Steve, can White continue to help the Jets here? And they're pushing for a playoff spot, but the spread's only 3 points.
Yeah, I think actually this is a great spot for Mike White too as well. If there's one difference between Mike White and Zach Wilson, White is able to get this offense downfield. That has not been something that Zach Wilson has been able to do. 11.8 yards per pass attempt in that game last week. The Vikings allowing the highest yards per pass attempt in the league. 7.8 yards per pass attempt, up to 8.8 over the last 3 weeks. You look at Zach Wilson in his career, he's hardly going over 6. So this is a good spot for Mike White to go downfield. That also being said, too, the Jets secondary has been so incredibly good. Now, obviously, going up against Justin Jefferson is a game that's, is a matchup that's almost matchup proof. But the Jets secondary, Sauce Gardner in particular, has been so strong. So I think this is a pretty strong spot for the Jets. And that's painful for Julie and I to say for 2 people who have the Jets under 6 wins this year. That's already in the can. That's already done.
We've already lost that. The Jets are the sharp side in this game, and they should be. So Last year when Mike White played for an injured Zach Wilson, he did pretty well until things just spiraled out of control, right? So we're kind of waiting for that again. This isn't the spot that it's going to happen, though. I think he's going to have a good game against this Minnesota defense. Look what we saw from the Patriots on Thursday night.
Right.
How bad did they look in that game against the Bills? They threw a screen pass to a defensive player to score a touchdown. That's the only offense they had. They lit it up against this Vikings secondary in Minnesota. That's exactly the spot that the Jets are in. I think Mike White's going to have a good game. They're going to hang in this game. Ultimately, Minnesota maybe has enough to win it, but this is a great spot for the Jets, at least offensively.
All right, good stuff, guys. That's all the time we have. Coming up next, Ross Tucker is going to join the program. He's going to talk about the Week 13 slate of games, including Eagles taking on the Titans. Can Philly slow down Derrick Henry and improve to 11-1? We discuss next on The Sweat, presented by the DraftKings Sportsbook.
The wait is over. DraftKings Sportsbook is officially live in Maryland. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code SWEAT to get $200 in free bets instantly when you place a $5 bet on anything. Only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Download the app now.
Welcome back to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. Friend of the program, former NFL lineman, DK podcast host Ross Tucker is here to break down the Week 13 slate. So, Ross, you're going to be working on the Eagles pregame show today. So let's start with Philly. They are rolling 10-1, coming off a shootout win against the Packers, but now they're hosting a Titans team that had been pretty hot, right? Coming off a 2016 loss to Cincy, though. So Tennessee is not a team that you would really look past, right? Or think is an easy W. But next week, Philly does have a key NFC East matchup with the Giants. So, any chance Jalen Hurts and the Eagles let their guard down? They're 4.5-point favorites. The Titans have a legit defense, though. Have held 8 consecutive opponents to 20 or fewer points. So, any chance this is a letdown spot for them?
I don't really think, Jesse, it's a letdown spot, but I do think it's going to be a low-scoring, close-to-the-vest game. It feels like a 20-17 game to me. We all know the way the Titans like to play. Similar to the score they had against the Bengals last week. They're going to try to run the ball on Philadelphia. That's been something teams have had success with. And the Titans always play these 17-14, 20-17 type games. I see no reason why this game is any different. So I really like the Titans and the points in this game.
All right, so speaking of the Giants, they've got a pivotal NFC East matchup against the Commanders next week. It's actually kind of hard to believe that the Commanders are 7-5. All right, they managed to win 3 in a row, so whoever does win this is going to have a big edge in playoff positioning. Commanders are 2.5-point road favorites, but who do you like here in this spot?
Well, I like the Giants on 2 levels. First of all, I think the Giants are an amazing teaser leg, and there's a lot of good teaser legs this week. There's no question. But I'll even just take the Giants at home getting the 2.5. I mean, to me, this is a toss-up game. These are teams that every game feels like it's very similar, could go either way. And maybe it's a law of averages thing, Jesse, but the Giants lost their close game last week at Thanksgiving against the Cowboys. The Commanders won theirs against the Falcons. It feels like the Commanders have won their fair share of these close late games. I think there's a little bit of a regression here, and it's the Giants' turn to find a way to get a win late.
All right, we have a rematch of the AFC Championship game from last season. You got the Chiefs heading to Cincy to battle the Bengals. Kansas City out for revenge. They've won 5 straight. Bengals have won 3 in a row. Chiefs getting a lot of public love as 2-point favorites. But should we really be counting out the Bengals at home here, especially because Jamar Chase is expected to make his return. He's expected to play. And let's not forget, he terrorized the Chiefs last season in Week 17 to the tune of 266 yards and 3 touchdowns. Man.
Well, and listen, I said this about the Giants game. I'll say it about this game. I love the Bengals as a teaser leg up to +8. Anybody that listens to the Even Money podcast knows I like my Wong teasers going through the key numbers of 3 and 7. There are 6 great teaser legs this week, and the Bengals are one of them. I don't think they're going to lose by 2 scores at home against the Chiefs. So tease the Bengals up. If you're not into teasers, I probably would go with Mahomes. I'd probably lay the 2 and just have a little bit more faith in Andy Reid and Mahomes late, winning by a field goal over Burrow and the Bengals. But the best bet here is the Bengals and a teaser leg.
All right, let's wrap up this segment with this. Aside from the games we've talked about, what is your favorite bet for Week 13?
Well, I already said, and I harped on this all over the Even Money podcast, all these teaser legs, but I like to keep it simple for folks. How about the Dolphins and the points? Take the Dolphins and the points. The Niners are getting all kinds of hype right now. Are they the best team? Nobody wants to play the Niners. Have you seen the Dolphins play? And remember this, the Niners are still beat up on offense. McCaffrey will play, but he's not 100%. Elijah Mitchell on IR. I'm taking the Dolphins and the points. They have been on fire. I like McDaniel, the protege, against his mentor, Kyle Shanahan. I think there's a great chance the Dolphins win this game outright. But even if they lose, it feels like it's a field goal game. Take the Dolphins and the points.
All right, good stuff. Thank you, Ross. Appreciate the time. As always, enjoy that Philly-Tennessee game. Up next, Steve, Josh, and Julian, they will be back to look at some props, some specials available on the DK Sportsbook, The Sweat. We'll be right back. Welcome back to The Sweat, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. I'm your host, Jesse Cofield, alongside DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan and Julian Edlow, and VSiN's Josh Applebaum. Fellas, it is time for Sunday specials. Everybody's favorite block of the week, am I right? You guys are going to give me your favorite parlays, promos, like other fun things, bets you can find on the DK Sportsbook for this week. Julian, you're going to start us off.
Shout out to producer Drew, who last week I said, I don't really know what Sunday special I'm going to go with. He said, any team to score over under 39.5 points. I was like, I like the over there. Teams seem to be scoring 40 points in the NFL. Doesn't matter who it is. It got there. That's now 5 of the last 6 weeks it got there. What's back? At even better odds, any team over under 39.5 points. We're going to see someone get to 40. Somebody gets to 40 every week. We're going right back to it. It's standard juice. I know a lot of these weekly specials, we can kind of go nuts with the odds. Over 39.5 points, any team. It's going to get there.
Okay, all right. Fair
Thanks.
enough.
It is
Steve?
fair.
Steve, what do we think?
Yeah, so I got Mike White to go for over 300 passing yards and a Justin Jefferson touchdown. That's a plus 600. We mentioned earlier, White against a very beatable secondary, allowing the most yards per pass attempt in the league. Jets are throwing the ball 59% of the time this season. Jefferson, 19 red zone targets, second most in the league, which seems pretty odd since he only has 6 touchdowns, but I like that one a lot at 6-1 odds.
Do you guys like that?
I do.
You're in on it?
I actually like, but I know what Josh is going to say too. I like both of theirs. a lot.
Okay, then Josh, tell us.
Yeah, so I'm going to go to the Jacksonville and Detroit game. I'm going to look at the quarterbacks here. Goff and Trevor Lawrence both have at least 250 passing yards each. A couple things to like about this one. This was plus 250, by the way. Trevor Lawrence just threw for 321 against Baltimore. I think you get a lot of confidence from that game. You went for 2, you win it. Jared Goff, he's going to get Jameson Williams back. There's the highly touted draft pick, finally going to make his debut. You're in a dome. These are 2 of the higher scoring teams, at least recently. And in terms of the pass defense, they're both giving up bottom of the league here, like 250 a game for Jacksonville, Detroit 260. This ranks 25th and 29th. High total in this one, 51. I think you get maybe a high-scoring game here. By the way, the line is moving to Detroit late. This was back and forth. Jacksonville -1 Pick'em, -1 Detroit. Now we just went to -1.5 with Detroit.
Wow.
All right, Julian likes it. You like it, Steve?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of, especially with how high scoring game that can be. I like that for sure.
All right, guys, we're almost out of here. Any final thoughts? Why not? Any final thoughts before we head into this Week 13 slate? Something you got to let the people know?
I think it's a tough slate. I think it's a decent week. We've had a bad year for teasers. Like last year, we were teasing stuff all the time. Steve and I were putting in a ton of teasers. Haven't done that as much this year. This year, I think, or this week, I think teasers are going to come back.
All right, fair enough. That is all the time we have for today, everybody. But we are going to keep this show going over on our DK social channels, YouTube, Twitter, Twitch. Come join us for another half an hour of fun. But we will also be on your screens next week at 11 a.m. See you then. Enjoy the games. Welcome back to The Sweat, everybody. I'm Jesse Cofield. We have 30 more minutes of DFS and Sportsbook plays coming your way for this Week 13 slate. But first, let's get into the best plays for the Week 13 Millie Maker, which you can be a part of again this week. We have another $1 million on the line, so this week's 3 million Fantasy Football Millionaire has just a $20 entry fee, okay? For a shot at a grand prize of, you guessed it, $1 million. In addition to $1 million, the winner will also earn a semifinal ticket to compete for another $1 million top prize in early 2023 in the DraftKings Tournament of Champions. So you get $3 million in total prizes. No better time to build your lineups than right now. Here to help you do just that, Jeff Ulrich and Steve Buchanan. Oh my God, he appeared out of nowhere. All right, Week 13 price check time, fellas. So we'll go through position by position. You tell us who you're playing. Jeff, tell us why you like Justin Herbert at QB.
I mean, he's just a good-looking guy, but no.
Yeah.
I mean, look, he's in a really good matchup. I mean, the Las Vegas Raiders, you know, it's a nice little story. They've grabbed a couple wins in a row. This is still a team that's bottom 3 in terms of pressure rates against, sacks against in the league. It's just a very good matchup. And Justin Herbert, over his career versus the Raiders, averaging 304 yards and 2.6 passing touchdowns. So this has been a very, very positive matchup. You also look at the Chargers and Herbert, when Keenan Allen's been in the lineup, Herbert's completed over 72% of his passes when Keenan Allen has been in the lineup for the Chargers this year. I think Herbert has another big game. I think the Chargers win this game as well, but really like Herbert going a little bit under the radar at the QB position as well for DFS.
All right, Steve, who is catching your eye at quarterback?
Yeah, Joe Burrow at 6,900 going up against the Chiefs in what's expected to be one of the more higher scoring games on this slate. Joey B's getting his #1 target back this week. Jamar Chase is going to be back in the mix. Even if he wasn't getting him back this week, T. Higgins has been an absolute force too in games without Chase. He's averaging over 94 yards per game. And then you got the Chiefs. They've been one of the more generous teams to opposing quarterbacks, allowing an average of over 20 DraftKings fantasy points, 254 passing yards. I think this is another spot where Joey B puts up those fantasy points.
All right, Jeff, take us to the running back position. Who do you like for the price here?
Yeah, going a little bit contrarian. I think everyone's looking on the other side of this game with the Cleveland Browns. I'm going to go to Dameon Pierce at 5,900 with the Texans.
Goodness.
I mean, you've got two bad rush defenses here. Everyone's focused on Nick Chubb and the Browns coming in, but like, this is basically the Super Bowl for the Texans. And quite frankly, I am definitely buying into this narrative. You've got a very elite after the contact rusher in Dameon Pierce. There I am. And, again, he's fourth in after the yards contact in the NFL right now. I know he's had like 16 yards the last 2 games, but all that has been game flow induced. I think that the Browns, if they show a little bit of rust here, Dameon Pierce gets off to a really good start. 5,900 is going to look really cheap. You play for the upside. This is a very boomer bust play right now in DFS, but for the Millie Maker, I think at 5,900, his upside is very, very strong against the Cleveland Browns team, who's allowed 5.4 yards per carry against the last 3 weeks.
Steve just aghast at that pick. Guessing you're not going there, Steve, for your pick at running back.
If Pierce gets 20 rushing yards in this game, it'll be a huge game for him from what we've seen as of late. I'm going with David Montgomery at 6,200. I think the field is going to be kind of off of him here because Justin Fields is expected to play in this one, and that takes away from his rushing upside. But if you remember back in week 2 when these two teams met, Montgomery went for 122 yards on 15 carries. This is a huge spot for him. We talk about how bad the Houston Texans run defense is. The Packers are right there too as well. They're allowing an average of 127 rushing yards per game. That is absolutely absurd. So even if Montgomery is taking about 15 to 17 carries, he can easily go over 100 rushing yards this week. At 6,200, that's an awesome price for him in this game.
All right, at wide receiver, Jeff, you're going with a guy that Steve actually mentioned already. T. Higgins, you not worried at all about Jamar Chase coming back and taking some of his minutes here, taking some of his looks?
No, I actually think that the Jamar Chase comeback is going to really help T. Higgins. T. Higgins without Jamar Chase in the lineup, 16.1 yards per catch, proved himself as a legit wide receiver 1. And I think that this matchup is just a little bit better for T. Higgins as well. You look at what happened in the playoffs last year. The Chiefs, they zoned against Jamar Chase a little bit. They kind of kept the cap on him, but you can't guard against like height and the speed that T. Higgins brings in the middle of the field. And he went off for 100 yards on 6 catches versus the Kansas City Chiefs. This is a true wide receiver 1. He gets overshadowed because Chase is in the lineup, but I love this scenario. You've got a high scoring game and high implied team totals, and everyone's worried about Jamar Chase taking away targets. The Bengals are going to throw the ball to both these guys, and Higgins has already proven that he can go off against this KC defense. I think if anything, Chase enhances Higgins in this matchup. We're going to get lower ownership on Higgins across the board too, and he's only 7,200. I think it's a really, really big spot for the Bengals offense, as Steve already alluded to, and I love pairing Joey B with T. Higgins this week.
All right, Steve, where are you looking at wide receiver?
Yeah, I love that call by Jeff, too. Higgins is one of the more ultimate tournament plays, I think, for this week. But another tournament play I like a lot, too, is A.J. Brown, 7,800 going against the Titans. Brown hasn't exactly been popping off in the box score lately, but this is probably the best matchup he's had over the past month. The Tennessee Titans are one of the worst secondaries in the league. They're allowing the 6th most receiving yards and the 2nd most touchdowns to the wide receiver position. Devonta Smith's obviously getting a lot of targets in this offense, too, but this is such a great spot to go back to Brown and what's probably the easiest matchup he's had in quite some time. 7,800 is a pretty lofty price tag for him, but I think that's one of the main reasons why I like him a lot, because people are going to be going in other directions, like with somebody like with Jamar Chase. So I think A.J. Brown in a huge spot here against the Titans.
All right,
I
Jeff.
mean, what about the revenge narrative, too, Steve?
We love Narrative Street, don't we?
Oh, yeah, my favorite.
Okay. All right. Jeff, where are you going at tight end?
I'm going to go to T.J. Hawkinson at 5,200. You look at the last 2 weeks, Hawkinson has 1 less target than Justin Jefferson. He's actually out-targeted Jefferson in the red zone 4-1 as well. Hawkinson's only got 1 touchdown the last 2 weeks. He could have multiple, though. Dropped an easy one in his first game as a Viking. So this is a player who's getting the targets. Minnesota came out true and said, we're going to use this guy. You look at the matchup for, Sauce Gardner taking out Justin Jefferson. I think Hawkinson is in a spot to get, potentially up to 10 targets in this game. I think it's going to be a close game. Mike White and the Jets passing offense, they're going to get some yards against Minnesota's secondary because it's bad. So Hawkinson, 5,200. I don't mind paying up here at all. Again, target share has been there. The red zone usage has been there. And I think it's a game where you could see a ceiling one from Hawkinson.
All right, Steve, who are you slotting in at wide receiver? Tight end. We already did wide receiver.
That's okay. It's still early on a Sunday.
Yeah,
the
really
punt of all punts at tight end this week is going to be Harrison Bryant, 2,700 for the Browns here. The Texans allowing an average of 12.2 DraftKings fantasy points, 48 receiving yards, and 5 total touchdowns, almost at home runs. It's early on a Sunday. 5 total touchdowns to this position so far this season. In 2 games now without David Njoku, Bryant has gone for 10 targets, 7 receptions, 56 yards and a touchdown without him in the lineup here. If you want to save some salary, there's so many positions that you can pay up for. This is going to be a very high-scoring fantasy slate overall. You're going to have to save some money somewhere. Take Bryant, eat the ownership here, 2,700. Really can't go wrong at this spot.
All right, guys, no time for your DST picks. Sorry. Got to toss it over to the desk where Josh Applebaum and Julian Edlow are waiting to dish out some teasers. Let's go.
Yeah, no time for defenses. We're going to spread the holiday cheer here, Josh, but we're not talking regular spreads. We're going to use it in teasers, and I think it's a great week for it. I don't know how you feel, Josh, but teasers, they were a big thing last season. I don't think 6-point teasers have been as common this year in the NFL. The spots just haven't been there, but I feel like this week it's kind of coming together for these teasers. So we're going to dish out some here. I will start. And we gave this number out earlier on the show. It's ridiculous. If you have done a 6-point teaser against the Denver Broncos and against the Los Angeles Rams, you have not lost this year. They are a perfect 11-0 on each side for a combined 22-0. So what am I going to do? I'm going to ride that trend, and I'm going to go right to teasing the Baltimore Ravens, who I don't know how many people are laying the 9 points with the Ravens. I think this went up to 9 basically to protect against teasers because it's been 8, 8.5 all week. You can get it down to 2, 2.5 into those key numbers. I'll take it down to 3, and I'm going to go right with Seattle as well. On the road, I know it's, the Rams are kind of coming undone. You can get that right down to a pick 'em. Baltimore -3, Seattle to a pick. That's my teaser this week. My best bet as well.
No, I like it with you, Julian. And again, teasers, what are teasers? Because there's new bettors every day trying to come online, trying to figure out what a teaser is. So basically, It's kind of like a parlay. As we know, Julian, basically you need all the legs. There are multiple bets into one bet. You need them all to cash. But unlike a parlay, you can adjust the odds up or down. So you typically, the most popular teaser would be 6 points here, taking it up or down 6 points in whichever direction that you like. But I think there's a strategic way to approach teasers here, Julian. And if anyone wants to do a little research, you have some free time, pick up the book Sharp Sports Betting by Stanford Wong. Because this is a book that will kind of guide you into how to approach teasers. So really what you're looking to do is go through multiple key numbers. Go through 3, go through 7. Not just say, hey, I like this team, let me go up or down in my direction. Approach them strategically. So my first teaser here, Julian, I'm going to go to the Cincinnati Bengals. Right now they're +2.5 at home against the Kansas City Chiefs. You mentioned it in the start to the program today. Huge public play here to Kansas City, but they opened 3. They're down to 2.5. So that tells me there's some respected money on the Bengals. So why is this a good teaser in my opinion? +2.5, take them up to +8.5. Go through 3, go through 7. Those are your top key numbers. If it lands 3 or 7, you cover. And then I'll pair that up with the Miami Dolphins. I'm a little worried because the Dolphins are a public play, Julian. They're getting like 70% of bets. That scares me.
And moving the other way, too.
Exactly. So to me, this is maybe only a teaser play, not just the regular points.
This is very very un-Josh Applebaum.
And this
right
is
here,
only in a
going-
teaser. Exactly. Only in teaser. So 4.5 to 10.5. Why is that important? You go through 7, you go through 10, but that's what I'd be looking at first teaser.
Just looking at the board, like I know we're going to give another one. We're going to go through a lot of these plays. Tennessee has been bet extremely hard, all the way down to 4.5. You can get them to 10.5. If you go to, I mean, I don't know if I want to do it with Cleveland, but you can get Cleveland down to 1.5. Just win that game in Houston. We talked about Baltimore. The Giants are at home, plus 2.5. You can get them to 8.5. We're getting so many key numbers. The Jags, 1.5 to 7.5 through key numbers. You can go to Miami, as you said, getting them up to 10.5. And then the other one, the Bengals. And now even the Chargers, who have gone the other way, and I know that you're on the Raiders, you can get them up to 8.5. There's a million spots this week. Honestly, so I was going to go with Miami up to 10.5. You use that as a leg. I was thinking about going with the Bengals there. I'll give it out with the Giants. I think I kind of like Washington to win that game, but we've got a total of 40. That game always goes under between the Giants and Commanders. If you can give me 8.5 points with the home team there in the Giants, I think that almost potentially both sides could cash that teaser. You don't want to tease Washington through 0. If there's one no with teasers, you're not going through 0. That's rule number 1. But yeah, I'll go with Miami plus 10.5 and New York plus 8.5 there as a couple of dogs.
Well, it makes a ton of sense to me, Julian. You hit on a couple big things, too. Also, correlate kind of the number to the total here, because one thing that pros like to do is look at a dog, teasing them up, but then also look at a low total game. So, for example, the G-Men caught my eye. You mentioned them, Julian, but total in that game is 40.5. It opened 42. The line's falling. If you can tease up a dog in the same game where the total is going down, that's some good correlative betting value. And I also think, Julian, when you look at teasers, I think the public perception is, hey, the favorite's supposed to win. Let me just take them down. That way I'll get a better number. But I like going the other way. I like taking dogs up, and you hit on a bunch of them because this year in the NFL, dogs are covering 57% of the time. So if they're covering the regular number 57% of the time, you'd think that they have to be even better here if you're getting more value here. So G-Men are one that I looked at. By the way, Daniel Jones, 6-1 ATS this year as a dog in his career. He's 23-14 ATS. And also, I know you and Steve were talking about this one at the LED board, but the Justin Fields game, I kind of like taking the Bears up to 10 and a half.
Yeah. The Packers are now going to win by double digits on the road?
Exactly.
Since when are they doing that?
That's a big thing to ask, especially with Justin Fields. In divisional dogs, by the way, 33-21 ATS, 61%. Dogs off a blowout. You get blown out, public thinks you're terrible, doesn't want to touch you next week. If you lose by 20 and you come back the next week, you're actually 10-3 ATS this year. So again, teasers are great. They're a big betting conversation on gambling Twitter, but don't just tease something you like to get a better number and feel better. Think about what numbers you're going through, because 3 and 7, most common methods of scoring, most margins of victory. You really want to go through those key numbers and approach teasers from a strategic standpoint.
One last rule here. We're talking sides on these teasers, and we're talking sides for a reason. Don't tease totals, people. Do not tease totals. You tease sides. Jesse Cofield. Going back to the LED
I am
board.
still here. What's up, guys?
Yes, we see you.
Great
You're right
work,
there.
you two. Back to me. Oh no, we lost me. All right,
You're still around.
Oh, I'm back. She's back. Where is she? All right, guys. Thank you. We're gonna get primetime picks with Jeff Ulrich coming up. But first, earlier in the week, Emerson Latzia caught up with Mike Golick Sr. He talked the Week 13 slate, including a high-profile matchup: Kansas City, Cincinnati. Let's hear what he had to say.
Game of the week may just be this AFC Championship rematch here between the Bengals and the Chiefs. Who do you like here on Sunday, Mike?
Well, I still like the Chiefs. I mean, they're really hitting on all cylinders right now. Mahomes is your leading MVP candidate. Now, at least spreading the ball around more without having your best receiver in Tyreek Hill not there. Wide receiver, I mean, I obviously understand Travis Kelce and what he brings at the tight end position. But they filled it with other players. He spread the ball around. He's still, I think, your MVP leader at this point. So I think they're hitting still on all cylinders. And for Cincinnati, it's about, when you get Jamar Chase back, how close are you? When he comes back, how is he going to be? Because the key is going to be, by the end of the season, do you have all your main parts healed up and ready to go? And that's what you need with Jamar Chase. I know he's got more weeks. Obviously, he's getting there. He's getting close and everything. But, man, you don't want any nicks by your star players toward the end of the season. You want him ready to go by playoff time. I just think Kansas City right now is hitting on all those cylinders, and I think they win this one.
Yeah, Bengals are trying to get in the mix here, too, for home field advantage in the AFC. They've won 3 straight games. And remember, Jamar Chase, if he does suit up, he torched the Chiefs, I think, for like 266 receiving yards in that game last season. Do you expect these two to meet once again come postseason AFC title game?
Well, I mean, certainly I expect the Chiefs to be there.
Wow. I mean, that's
It's tough.
it's because Miami is playing well.
Yes.
Buffalo worries me. Their run defense and the Josh Allen red zone interceptions. I mean, you start throwing those in the playoffs when you lose and go home, that's going to be tough. Miami is looking good. Cincinnati, I'll say, getting a healthy Jamar Chase. I think like last year, they can peak at the right time and possibly be that team to play Kansas City.
All right, here's a look at the primetime matchups this week. Colts at Cowboys on Sunday, Saints at Bucks on Monday. Colts are 5-0 against the spread in their last 5 road games versus a team with a winning home record. Cowboys 7-0 against the spread in their last 7 games in December. Meanwhile, Saints 4-0 against the spread in their last 4 meetings in Tampa Bay. Bucks 1-5-1 against the spread in their last 7 home games. Okay, so DraftKings contributor Jeff Ulrich is here to give us his primetime picks. Jeff, let's start with Indy Dallas here. Your favorite bet in this one, Colts plus 10.5. This is fascinating to me because the Colts are scoring a measly 15.8 points per game here, and they got to break down a Dallas unit that allows the second fewest points on average. So, what's going on in your brain here?
Well, a couple things. First of all, we're getting 10.5 points. So, I mean, it's a big spread to cover for any team. And I think the biggest thing you hit on the fact that the Indianapolis Colts offense not clicking, but their defense is pretty solid. Again, this is a defense that their defensive line play has improved. Their secondary on the outside has some pretty solid corners that's improved throughout the year. I think that they're going to be able to keep a cap on this Dallas Cowboys offense. And it's going to do enough to let the Colts cover here. You look at what the Colts have done this year. They're only 4-5-1 with Matt Ryan as starting quarterback, but they've only lost by double digits once with Matt Ryan as their starting quarterback as well. The last couple games with Jeff Saturday, I mean, they're one play away essentially from being 2-0 if Jeff Saturday just learns how to use his timeouts, So again, this is a team that's been playing better, especially on the defensive side of the ball. Do they have offensive deficiencies? Yes, but you look at the Cowboys, they allow some yards. They allowed the Giants last week on Thanksgiving to ruin my Dallas Cowboys spread bet and get the backdoor cover there. So they're still allowing some yards, some soft yardage, even in at the end of the game there. I think that you take the Colts at 10.5 here. There's money coming in on the Cowboys. Always like going against the public. Give me the Colts to cover this game.
All right, Jeff, for your captain pick in this one, you're going with Michael Pittman Jr. here. I mean, he's seen 27 targets in 3 games since the Colts head coaching change. So high volume here, right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, he's got about a 25% team target share as well, which we like. Michael Pittman's just a big outside, alpha wide receiver. I mean, he's the type of player who can come in and just, go off against anyone, quite frankly. And, again, you look at the Dallas Cowboys, very tough against the run lately. Their defensive line is elite. Their secondary will allow plays. I mean, they will allow plays at the end of games, at the end of the half. I think Michael Pittman, from a yardage standpoint, is going to have a very big game. I don't mind going over on his yardage totals either as a prop bet. But for DFS, you're looking, I don't mind Tony Pollard in this game, but, Indianapolis has a good defensive front too. Dak Prescott is a maybe. I think Pittman has the biggest chance here to be the real X factor for the Colts, put up a bunch of yards, keep this game close. And if that happens, I just think that if he finds the end zone, he's got a very good chance of being the top scorer. Big discount off him versus CeeDee Lamb too.
All right, moving to Monday night. What's your favorite bet in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to go to the player props here, and I'm going to go back to my guy here, Chris Olave, who, again, like he's had some big games. I mean, again, 100 yards versus the Rams. This is a player who's second in total air yards in the NFL, but he's not even close to being the top 5 targeted player in the NFL. I mean, he is getting targeted downfield relentlessly, and his player prop in this game is only 59.5. I think this is an easy over, and I think you can even look to take Olave when you're looking on the DraftKings Sportsbook. I always recommend this. Look to the alt lines on these players. If Chris Olave goes off for a big game, which he's done numerous times, take him to go over 100 yards. You're getting plus 310 last I looked on the DraftKings Sportsbook to do that. This is the exact type of player in a good situation that you want to target for those alt lines. He gets a ton of air yards. He's getting a ton of downfield targets. You may only need 5 catches to get over 100 yards. And actually, you know what? Andy Dalton not playing too bad the last couple weeks. 3 touchdowns versus 0 interceptions. Completion rate is up. So Chris Olave, I think, in a very good spot here. At the very least, you want to go over on his receiving yards prop at 59.5, but maybe even look to go deeper on the DK Sportsbook when those alt line totals get nice plus money.
Yeah, it's even gone up to 60.5 here. You're going back to him for your captain play, too.
Yeah, again, you know, we look at this game, and I really don't mind the spot for Chris Godwin to see some continuation. Mike Evans has struggled at times against the Saints. So, you know, you could go back to Chris Godwin here as well, but there is such a price differential between Godwin and Chris Olave. I mean, we're talking over $3,000 in DFS that I think that, you know, what we've seen from Chris Olave is he's just got that huge ceiling. He's got that 100 yards and a touchdown game in him pretty much whenever he takes the fields. The Saints are targeting him relentlessly down there. And you know, just as a whole, when you're looking at this game, who to target? Okay, Godwin. Do we really want to trust either of the quarterbacks here? Andy Dalton may be in the conversation because he's playing a little bit better, but Alvin Kamara almost always struggles against the Buccaneers. He's very touchdown dependent against them for fantasy. The play to me here is very much to go back to Chris Olave, because if this game is close, if Dalton keeps playing well, I just don't see a scenario where that game plays out without Olave doing something pretty special. So give me Olave. He's a very good price, 12.6. Again, all the air yards are there, everything we want for fantasy, and those deep targets.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. We are in the home stretch on this Sunday edition of The Sweat, but Sunday is not the only time that you can find us here. We do this show Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. We talk all sports, we talk DFS, we talk betting, and in case you missed this week, here are some hijinks that you can take a look at.
Let's start big. Let's start beefy.
This week on The Sweat.
Jules, what was your biggest takeaway from Pittsburgh's win over the Colts last night, and why was it Jeff Saturday's clock management?
Yeah, it's hard not to have your takeaway be the glaring takeaway, right?
Good morning, Mike. Good morning, Brandon, who tweeted on Sunday that you hate me. The hell's going on, pal?
I didn't appreciate Trevor Lawrence having his career game against my Ravens in the fourth quarter.
Well, grow up, bud. How about that? Huh?
We're just going to bring in Paul Bruno.
Who is a member of one of 2 nations that have already been eliminated
Canada!
from advancing at the World Cup.
Boom. Roasted.
Listen to these slagging shots. I'm going to interrupt you right off the bat and say, remember the qualifier, AJ, when we had the chance to play twice, Canada-USA? How did those games turn out?
I don't. I just remember
How did those games turn out?
Fryer, you just got to roster this guy at 7,200, right?
No.
Can't miss this. No?
No?
No, you don't
What the hell's going on?
Waylon, do you agree you don't need Nurkic in this spot?
I personally, as a man, will be rostering Yusuf Nurkic tonight.
All right, let's take a look at the college football playoffs as it stands right now.
Hey, Julian.
All right.
Hey.
We
me,
didn't
I'm working.
introduce Julian yet.
He's on
Okay?
camera.
Just relax. It's in the script, buddy.
Let's go, DraftKings contributor, Darian Thorne. Look at him. He's smiling. He's happy today because his favorite baseball team, the Blue Jays, just hired Don Mattingly as their bench coach. Congratulations, Garion.
You know, every young boy grows up dreaming that their favorite baseball team will hire Don Mattingly as a bench coach, and I'm just so glad that I got to see it.
We do like to have fun here. We do like to have fun. All right, welcome back to The Sweat. I'm Jesse Cofield. I am joined by DraftKings contributors Steve Buchanan, Julian Edlow, VSiN's Josh Applebaum. It is our final segment of the show. All right, so we're going to get your favorite touchdown props for Week 13 in a segment we're calling the End Zone. So, Josh, what is your favorite prop?
So my prop, I'm going to go to the Cleveland Browns and the Houston Texans. I think a lot of attention here is obviously Deshaun Watson coming back, making his first start in quite a long time. But I'm going to go to the running game here. And I think, Julian and Steve were hitting on this a little bit earlier, but I think it's a big game for Nick Chubb. Anytime touchdown score in this game, it's minus 170. It's a little bit pricey here, but I think it could be worth the price. Look at Nick Chubb against this Houston rush defense. They're dead last in the NFL, giving up almost 170 yards per game defensively on the ground. Nick Chubb is second in the NFL in touchdowns, 12 overall, trailing only Jamal Williams at 13. He's had a touchdown in 8 of his last 11 games. I think in Deshaun Watson's first game in forever, I don't think they're going to expect him to throw the ball a million times. I think you lean on your running game. That's really kind of the DNA of your team here. I think Chubb gets in the end zone. Give me Nick Chubb minus 170 to score a touchdown.
All right, Julian, touchdown prop. Go ahead.
Question
mark?
I'm Ron Burgundy.
I'm Ron Burgundy.
Guess what? We missed this in our pre-production meeting because I was going to go Nick Chubb minus 170 as well. And later, I was getting ready.
Well, that makes me more confident.
I was getting ready to say Steve and Josh taking all these long odds. I'll stuff my face with some chalk, take Nick Chubb minus 170. How about this, though? If he's minus 170 to score once, he's plus 340 to score twice.
Yep.
Is that your play?
No, but that should be a play.
Yeah.
Okay, so it's a play. Nick Chubb, forget Josh. Boring. One time. Twice. Plus 340. Give it to me.
Okay, all right. Good. Thank you, Steve, for
You're very
nudging
welcome.
Julian along in that spot.
Yeah.
What about you, Steve? What's your favorite touchdown prop?
Yeah, David Montgomery to score a touchdown is up to plus 135.
You
And
should have
then
gone Nick Chubb to score 3 times.
Well, yeah, actually, we probably have said that. That's probably like 800. But this is a great spot for, we talked about it earlier, David Montgomery to get into the end zone against a Green Bay Packers run defense that has been so bad. We talked about it earlier. David Montgomery absolutely ran all over this run defense. This is very close, Billy. 15 carries for 122 yards in that game. For somebody that has at least 2 red zone carries in 8 straight games now, this is a great spot for David Montgomery. Score at least 1 touchdown. If you want to get crazy, 2 or 3. I don't have the odds in front of me, but I'm sure that'd be a lot of fun too.
Did you find out?
Jesse's bet is Nick Chubb to score 3 times at plus 1,400.
All right, I'll take it. That's mine. That's
Yeah.
my touchdown prop. All right, amazing. That's going to do it for our Week 13 edition of The Sweat. Like I said, you can find us here Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time talking all the sports. But, of course, we will be back next Sunday, 11 a.m. to talk to you about the Week 14 slate. The Sweat is out. Enjoy the games.
Very close, Billy.